franktalks.com.
Hi, this is Catherine
And this is Pierre.
from bdsmcircle.com.
And you're listening to
Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank because I have to be. On today's show, we're talking with two members of the BDSM Circle, Pierre and Catherine. They were also featured on the television program Kink, and they've come into studio to share a little bit about their lives with us. Welcome to studio, Pierre and Catherine.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks.
Let's start with Pierre. Let's talk about where you were born and the areas of your upbringing that led you to the BDSM lifestyle.
Well, I wish it was that easy to answer, but let's start by the beginning. Obviously, I'm French. I was born in Montreal, raised, and I did all my schooling in Montreal. I went into Cégep and technical field. I'm actually a genuine electronic technician. As for my interest in BDSM, like many of people that are in BDSM, I started very, very young to be interested about these things. Obviously, like 20-something years ago, I just don't want to mention how old I am because the internet didn't exist at the time. So to get information about what BDSM was or is was very, very, really, really hard. Actually, BDSM didn't exist under that term at the time. You know, they were talking about domination and submission. And each time I was able to find a piece of information about something that would concern that. I was fascinated by this. And like many people that were interested in this, it took me many years before I felt comfortable and basically came out of the closet as a BDSM player.
All right, Catherine, how about you? What can you tell us about, what do you feel comfortable telling us about your history and how you found BDSM?
Well, I was born in Southern Ontario, and I don't think it's something that started suddenly. It's just basically it's the way I'm hardwired. It's my sexuality. Some people consider themselves to be straight or bi or poly or whatever, but I consider myself to be primarily BDSM as my sexuality, and I think that's my earliest fantasies, and what actually stirred me was always BDSM related, and soft, gentle ideas of sex. Well, although they're nice and they're flattering, and it's and that didn't really stir or get me excited. So it's just something that's always been there.
Now, you two are an actual couple. You're together in all areas of your life. Is that correct?
We live together. We've been living together for 5 years now.
And how did the two of you meet? And was it related to your interest in BDSM?
Well, I was single and looking for a partner, and I definitely wanted someone who was also interested in BDSM, and so I went looking for someone who was sexually compatible. The same way as what you call a non-BDSM person, a vanilla person, looks for someone who's heterosexual or has the same life goals. That was all part of it, and I also wanted someone who had compatible goals, and certainly someone who had compatible sexuality.
Were you also very conscious in your search, Pierre?
Yes. Actually, I did my search on specialized websites where you could meet people that are like you, and I can say that me and Catherine were one of those successful stories, where we met through the internet, and from there, I mean, things just evolved, and we've been together for, like I said, 5 years.
So even before you actually met face to face, you had an inkling that you were both interested in BDSM.
Well, we met in that type of forum. Certainly, we were looking for potential mates who had that sexuality. Absolutely.
Before I met Catherine, I was active, but maybe not as much as today. I was doing my research. I was getting out there more and more. I had a couple of partner, sometime, different type of play, some cyber stuff. I tried this. I mean, like many people, I tried some what we call real play with other people, but I wanted a relationship. I just didn't want just like an adventure or somebody I would play with, like once every 2 months or something like this. I wanted a relationship with someone, and this is how I met Catherine.
Let's talk about how either easy or difficult it is to meet a partner, a life partner in the BDSM world. Catherine, let's start with you. Was it easy to find someone to date?
Well, women are the minority, so it's always easier for a woman than it is a man. Very much in what they call non-BDSM or vanilla. It's always easier for a woman to find a date. All a woman has to do is go into a bar, and if she doesn't want to go home by herself, well, she won't. And it's the same thing. The women are a minority, so that it's easier for them. But I think I've still got the cream of the crop, or the pick of the crop, the creme de la creme, or however you want to put it. The right one for me. And but definitely I had more options than probably Pierre did, just because there's more men that are interested or that come out of the closet for this than there are women.
Would you agree with that, Pierre? Was it more difficult for you as a man?
Well, yes, it was. In my case, I have been looking at the time for more than 2 years to find a suitable partner for me, and it's not that I was not successful. Actually, I have met a lot of people before I met Catherine, but they were not the right one. I wanted somebody that was special. I wanted somebody that was the way I dream about having a partner in BDSM, and well, Catherine was the one.
Oh, I love you too.
Well, since it's going in that direction, let's get a little bit more mushy here. Catherine, when you first met Pierre, other than the fact that you both had an interest in BDSM, how did you know he was the one for you?
Well, we actually have a standard answer to that, but it's kind of crude, so I won't answer that. But we have a running joke actually between us, but I think you'd get X-rated. So, he's just, we have compatible goals, and I think actually what really drew me above and beyond the BDSM is that he's very ethical. And I know one of the things is he's a DJ and had been for over 20 years, and was getting pushed out of the business. And it was basically because he was still buying all his music, and other competitive DJs weren't. And so it was getting very hard to stay competitive for him. And it was the fact that unlike many people, he actually wouldn't sell out his ethics. Most people in that situation, be they a musician as himself or not, would have just downloaded it and wouldn't have cared if they were making money off other people, despite if they thought it was morally right or not. Money talks. And the fact that it didn't for him just made me think this is a good, decent man above and beyond everything else. And that's probably when I first fell in love with him.
Pierre, same question to you. Other than the fact that she was interested in BDSM, what was it about her that signaled to you that she was the one?
Believe it or not, Catherine has a conversation that is amazing. And this is what I want. I am somebody who's interested in a lot of things, and I want somebody who can follow me there. And Catherine, well, she has an opinion about anything. And okay, I can get in trouble for that one. But that's the whole thing. When you have seen us, when we talk together, we're always like trying to interrupt each other. We always want to say something. And this is what I like about her. I don't always agree with her, but this is the loving part of her. This is what's great.
All right, let's go back to the resources. And Pierre, I'm going to direct most of these questions to you. You've been researching BDSM for, you said, almost 20 years. The internet's a fantastic resource for BDSM now. What resources were available to you before the internet?
That's the problem. Before the internet, if you wanted to get any type of information, you needed to buy books. That seems easy, but 10 years ago in Montreal, there weren't that many places where you could get these books. And the book you could get sometime were not always quality, if I could describe them like this. Some of them actually gave you a lot of rubbish about what a BDSM, or at the time a S&M relationship or a domination and submission relationship should be. And it was really, really, really hard to find proper information. And actually, a BDSM research for someone was more at the time something personal than something that you could get answer from books. And that was the big problem with this. If you wanted to be part of a group, the group at the time were so close because they had to be close to protect themselves, that you could not get in if you didn't have any reference or somebody to bring them, to bring you there. And the internet has changed that a lot. Okay, sometimes the internet could be, again, now, even by today, some of the information you have on the internet is still rubbish. You have to be careful. You always have to check your information from a different source. Okay, this is a question of safety. If somebody tell you that you can do this or do that, try to get it from somebody else that will say about the same thing. But I mean, now it's much, much easier to get information. And this is one of the great things about the internet. Actually, one of the things I'm looking right now is I'm trying to find information about what we would call the old guard, the old group of people that used to do S&M and domination and submission relationship like 20 years ago. And I can tell you that their way of doing things have changed a lot since, because they had no choice. At the time, to be into such a relationship or such a native sexual choice, it was hard, and some of the people were using this to control other people, even if by today it's still the same thing. Now people are more informed, and this is something that I think is great.
What do you think would have happened to those people 20 years ago who were experimenting with BDSM that were found out by their friends or colleagues?
Believe it or not, it's probably not much different than today. Even by today, people don't understand, vanilla people, regular people don't understand what is a BDSM relationship or a submission or a domination and submission relationship. All that people see is what they have seen on TV. And if you look at movie like Story of O or Secretary, which was one of the latest movie, there's always something wrong with these people that do these movies. So you cannot go there and say, well, I'm somebody who pay my tax, I'm a good worker, I'm a good family man, and I'm into BDSM. I mean, it doesn't work for these people. And this is some of the things that today we're trying to fight against.
Catherine, would you agree with that statement, that it's the same stigma today as it was 20 years ago?
I think that it's always going to be something very individual. I think that we've come some distance. However, I still think that the female dom, male submissive is a lot more easily accepted or readily accepted in society than the male dom. They tend to see the male dom as basically just, a wife-beaten man, and not realize that this is consensual, that they're one of the differences, and the main difference between BDSM and abuse is that BDSM can be stopped at any time, and that it's agreed to, and whereas if a man beating his wife, the woman says stop, he's not going to go, okay, honey, and stop, but it's still looked at that way by society a lot, that it's abuse when it's a male is the dominant. So I don't think that's really changed.
But it's surprising. If Catherine said to someone that she's a female dom, people would smile like, oh yeah, that's cool. And if I say to the same people I'm a male dom, I'm a woman beater for them. I mean, you can see that there's a big difference in value here.
When I tell people if I normally will just present myself as a dom a lot of the time. Well, partly because if we're poly, which means we will play with other people. We'll only play with anybody else if I'm dominant over them. I'm only submissive to Pierre. So it stops those ideas first of all, but also because if I'm coming out of the closet to somebody and I say to somebody I'm a submissive, I've actually had people say to me, "Oh, there's nothing really wrong with you. I'm sure you can find a good man. You don't have to let one do that to you, you know." And it's like, no, you're not getting this. As opposed to if I say I'm dominant, and they think, then it's more like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh yeah, haha. This is, then they get, titillated over it. Whereas the idea of the female submissive just doesn't. It's just not accepted.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, assuming there's someone listening right now who probably is not practicing BDSM, but is curious about it. Let's just get some of the basics out. What does BDSM stand for, and what do you think BDSM is?
You want to go, or?
Sure. You asked. BDSM is bondage and discipline. It also stands for domination and submission, and of course S&M, which is sadism masochist. And it's basically an amalgamation of all of these different things, and it can be all of it or just one or two parts of it. It really encompasses a wide range of sexual practices. The main basis of it that it always should be it's called safe, sane, and consensual. And the main one on this is consensual. In other words, both parties are consenting to this. So even if you see something where it looks like one of the parties is being forced, it's a role playing. They have the power to stop it. It's done by something called a safe word, or it's like a code word. That can stop or slow down the play, just to make sure that it's really enjoyable for both parties. Sometimes part of the role playing or the scene may be to be rough with the other person, and as the dominant, I know that I definitely want to make sure that it's okay what I'm doing. I wouldn't want to do it to somebody if it was real. I wouldn't want to actually force somebody to do something. It's fun in an erotic sense if it's more like a play. Yeah.
Pierre, do you have anything to add to the definition?
No, I think she did a great job there.
All right, you're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. We'll be back right after this.
Would you like to sponsor Frank Talks? Visit www.franktalks.com and contact Frank, because he has to be. Sponsorships are always welcome, whether it's prize giveaways, parting gifts for our guests, studio equipment, accessories for the Frankmobile, or a host of other wonderment. Help Frank Talks make the world a better place, one interview at a time.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, do you want the man in your life to understand you on your level? Do you want your man to be able to listen to and address all of your emotional needs? Show him how much you really want your relationship to be the best it can be. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test makes the perfect gift. The book, written by a man, for men, is endorsed by every woman that reads it. This book is a guide for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
Frank Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar. The Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
Hi, this is Pierre from BDSM Circle, and we're on Frank Talks, Pleasure and Lifestyles.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank because I have to be. We're in studio with Pierre and Catherine from the BDSM Circle, and they're here to give us a little taste of what BDSM is all about. Welcome back.
Thanks. Nice to be back.
All right, let's start off this segment with the fact that the two of you are very public about the fact that you lead you go into the BDSM lifestyle. You've been featured on television, some other media projects we're going to talk about. Let's start with the television program Kink. The fact that you had a camera crew living with you, following you. What was that like to be followed by a television crew and have those parts of your life exposed?
Well, BDSM isn't really something that we had particularly hidden. It's not something we'd, advertised either. But at the same point, it wasn't hidden. At work, it was, some of my friends knew about it, but it's not something that comes up around the water cooler necessarily. However, so it was interesting to come out of the closet there, for sure.
What about you, Pierre? What was that like?
Well, it's the same. Like she said, we don't have a neon sign on the house that says, BDSM here or something like this. But at the same time, we don't hide it. Like last summer, we did parties with BDSM people. There was rule. I mean, we didn't allow anyone to do anything inappropriate in the backyard, but we were 40, 50 people having a blast, all BDSM. And when they would go into the house, well, things were a little different there. But that's the whole thing. We don't hide. We don't advertise because we want to be respect, but you have to respect other people. You cannot go to your neighbor and say, look at my chain slave or something like this, because that won't work. Okay? But at the same time, what's happening in my house is mine. It's I have the right to do what I want in my house. So this is what we mean. We're public, but at the same time we don't advertise.
So in other words, you don't throw it in people's faces.
That's a fair way to put it. I mean, especially the only thing we would hide it from, I guess, would be children.
This is an adult game. It has nothing to do with children, and children shouldn't be
no
involved
more
in
would
this.
I talk about anything sexually explicit in front of any kid. I'm not going to talk about BDSM either.
Do the two of you have children?
No, we don't.
And have you ever talked about the possibility that if one day you do have a child, if
no
you
comment.
would? Okay. Let's go into the process for being chosen to be on the television program Kink. What were the auditions like?
Well, we actually didn't audition for Kink. Basically, we have the website, bdsmcircle.com, and so they found us through that, and they basically wrote us saying, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? And we wrote back going, well, maybe, tell us about it. So I actually hadn't seen very much of Kink. I think I'd got like one episode from a previous year, but we said, we'd like to see the show. So they sent us everything actually that had been done by in all of the other seasons. on videotape, which was nice to have to our videotape collection. We checked it out, and we liked the way they dealt with the subjects. We liked that the subjects were telling their own story, and that they had a cut of different pies and different slices of different parts of BDSM, and it wasn't just the one view on it, which was something we really liked, because there's many different views and lifestyles kind of within BDSM. A lot of people think that all BDSM people are going to have the same philosophy, and as far as the basic credence of safe, sane, and consensual, well, yes, most or 99% do. Okay, at least responsible people do. But other than that, there's a lot of ways to live the lifestyle, and there's a lot of takes on it. And so it was neat to see that they were taking real life people who were living BDSM in different ways.
What was nice about the show is the fact that they allow us to tell our own story. Of course, there's editing, they choose the best part and stuff, and this is something that we were a bit worried about. What if they take part that is not relevant with other, out of context, because this is the biggest fear. But I think they did a pretty good job. I mean, there's things that I would have done differently, but I was in front of the camera, not behind, so it's like, it's not my decision to make. But this is what we like. We were able to tell our story. Some people have accused us to say that we were representing the BDSM crowd, and we answered them. It's like, no, we were telling them our story. We were not a representation of BDSM people from Montreal. We were a representation of Pierre and Catherine.
Was there anything that made it onto television that in retrospect you kind of wish didn't?
Sure.
Oh.
I found that one of my biggest things was I really didn't like to hear my voice, which was surprising. I found that my voice sounded really whiny, and at one point I made a comment, and there was something, and I said, "Oh, just call me Mummy Dom," and they put that on. I thought, "Oh, geez," And although it's not offensive, there is a kind of a kink for adult babies, which are adults who will role play to be like infants. And suffice to say that is not, repeat, not, if anybody's listening, one of my major kinks. Thank you very much. So other than that, it was pretty good.
And in my case, at some point, King showed us when we were having a scene, what we call it's a play, okay, a scene with one of the sub from the stable, and it was fairly a long play. And during the play, one thing I have to tell you, this was filmed during the summer, and that summer was really, really, really hot. And you have to understand that when they do the filming, we have to close the window, we have to turn off any air conditioning for noise. So if you look at the TV while we were on Kink, you're seeing us that we're sweating lots and lots and lots, which means that when we were playing, the sub, which is one of our good friend, Lainey, when I was playing, I kind of, because there were so many people in the room, I was not able to do a proper flogging. Okay, flogging is a type of play, and I did 2 marks on her. When I was aware that I did this mark, I moved everything and I fixed it, and then we went on. But on camera, you can clearly see these marks, and actually some people were very, very, very upset at me because I did these marks on Lainey. It became a huge thing online.
That brings me to my next question. What are some of the reactions that you've gotten from people who, let's say, didn't know that the two of you were a part of this lifestyle, saw television, realized, hey, I know them, and what was their what reactions have you been on the receiving end of?
Mostly for real life people who have recognized us, it's been pretty positive, I think. Mostly I have all sorts of people that have come out of the closet to me. A lot of people kind of felt like that I had shared with them, and now they wanted to share with me, which was very flattering at times, but rather I learned some details I really would have rather not known about some people I knew, and nothing that was really offensive, but I don't always want to look at everybody and think, oh wow, there's some pretty creative things out there that people do. And now I was privy at everybody just wanted to get these things off their chest and tell me. So yeah, some pretty interesting things.
In my case, because I work mostly for a French company, French-speaking company, most people didn't watch King, so I didn't have to deal with this. And in the lifestyle itself, I must say we had a very positive reaction from people. There's a few people who gave us a bit of problem, but most of them were very, very, very supportive. So it was really a great experience for us.
Would you do it again? If Kink came back or any other television series came back and wanted to follow you around with a camera, would you be ready to do it again?
Well, actually interesting you asked, because we have done some television since then a couple of times. So I guess the answer would be yes. Although, of course, you get a little...
almost blasé.
Yeah, you get a little bit more blasé about it, but you also get a little bit more camera-wise. And there's things I would definitely do differently, if I did it around the second time.
Like what?
Well, I would have made sure that my hair always looked good. I know that wasn't the answer you were looking for.
But that's one of the problems. It was so hot that...
It was...
it was amazing.
It was... I would have gotten silent air conditioning. I know there was one scene where I was playing in the dungeon with 2 male submissives. And, you're really focused in on what you're doing. And... because you're playing with 2 male submissives, and I'd forget about the camera, and I'd look up and I'd catch myself in the mirror and go, oh dear God, there's no way they'll show that. Well, that's good, they'll never show that. And of course they did. And you look at me and I've got sweat streaming down, and my hair is in wet, damp, drippy clumps all around, and I'm thinking, well, damn it, that's what a dom looks like when she's playing hard. But that's I really would have rather have been the nice, cool, perfect, makeup and my but it was real life. And but I probably would have made sure that I was filmed a little bit better
next time.
Yeah.
What other projects? Let's go into the other projects after Kink.
We actually did a documentary that aired on Discovery Health, and it was part of a 4-part series done by Triplex here in Montreal.
The city's Human Nature.
Yeah, and it was Anatomy of Human Nature, and there was a 4-part series. One was on laughter, one was on pain, one was on tears, and the last one was on pleasure, and that's the one we were on. And
they wanted us to describe how we use the pain to turn it into pleasure. And actually, in this case, they used more Catherine's material because she was great in it.
Because I kept talking and talking and talking.
But this is the second thing we did. We did a few things here and there, and the last one we did is about a month ago. We had an interview with Music Plus. There's a show called The Mike Ward Show, where he addressed all type of relationship, and they were home with their camera and they were interviewing us in the dungeon, and it was all in French. I mean, it's the first French thing we're doing. Between that, we had a couple of interview for magazines, newspaper, and stuff like that.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. We'll be back right after this.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, do you want the man in your life to understand you on your level? Do you want your man to be able to listen to and address all of your emotional needs? Show him how much you really want your relationship to be the best it can be. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test makes the perfect gift. The book, written by a man, for men, is endorsed by every woman that reads it. This book is a guide for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. What is inner game? There's a lot of contradictory information out there, and one size does not fit all. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. This is a workbook, which means we will work together, and by the end, you will have developed your own personal inner game. By this, learn what it means to be a man and what the role of the modern man in today's society is that will attract him to the woman he wants. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com. From Loser to Seducer is the story of Frank B. Kermit. This book marks the triumph of a nice guy over most of his inner demons. This includes going from being a loser to managing 5 lovers at the same time, his first Valentine's date with 2 women at the same time, and getting back the one that got away. Want to learn how you can change your life? Buy this book at franktalks.com.
Hi, this is Mrs. Catherine from bdsmcircle.com, and I'm here with Frank for Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank because I have to be. We're in studio with Pierre and Catherine of the BDSM Circle. Welcome back to studio, Pierre and Catherine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, let's start off this segment by asking you the following question. Knowing everything you know now about the BDSM community, the lifestyle, if you could go back in time and visit yourself at a much younger stage of your development, what advice would you give yourself?
Believe it or not, do it earlier. Like I said, I waited a long time before I was comfortable enough with who I was to get out there. And if I have known what I know today, I would not have waited until I was in my 30s. I mean, I would have started when I was in my 20s. I would have had more fun, actually. This is one thing, because we're always afraid about, what people are going to say, how the society is going to react to what I am, and all this shit. Am I crazy? Well, we all know I am, but not for that. It's like, it's just that BDSM is more than just a kink, it's a need. And this is something that is really, really hard to explain. Often I would compare the need that I've got for BDSM as, let's say, an homosexual would have to be with other men. I mean, there's a lot of gay people out there that have girlfriend and stuff, but really, really what they want is to be with another man. In my case, it's the same thing. I had regular girlfriend, but what I really, really wanted was a submissive or a partner to do what I wanted to do. It's just that I was not ready to get out of the closet at the time. So,
what about you, Catherine? What advice would you give your younger self?
Well, I never held back, so I guess I can't go for the same. But I don't know. I agree with the advice, but for other people is I know we often hear people who, oh man, I wish I could do what you two do, and I wish you two could come out, you guys could come out of the closet, but we couldn't, and you know what, you can, and you just have to decide if it's going to be worth it, and it's the same thing as is you can live any type of lifestyle that you can imagine, and you can build it. We have a committed, loving relationship, and yet we're poly. We live out our fantasies. We live a life that others dream of living, to be perfectly honest. And yes, there are times there's a price to pay, but the price is definitely worth it. At least for us it is.
Let's talk a little bit about that price. What are the sacrifices that a BDSM couple like yourself has to make in order to live this lifestyle the way you do?
Well, the fact that we're childless would be part of it. If we'd had children in the home, we certainly wouldn't have, a dungeon in our house. Because we are childless, we can certainly live the lifestyle to an extent openly that others may not be able to do, and that I do agree with. But at the same point, I don't know, I lost it there.
The price to pay is mostly social. I used, for instance, I'm a DJ, but I used to play drum for a band. And now, many years ago, when that band found out what I was, I have been at the time with the band for 7 years, they kicked me out. Even if they knew who I was, that they knew me and for who I really was. I mean, you cannot be playing music with someone for 7 years without having an idea about what that people is. But yet, because they don't understand what BDSM is all about, they got scared and they kicked me out. And this is the part about social, the social price you have to pay.
I find that part of it is you have to be very comfortable with who you are, and you have to be very comfortable with yourself, because there are people who will reject you, so to speak, or reject me because I'm into BDSM. And to tell you the truth, I'm really quite okay with that, because I basically say that if someone isn't open-minded, I don't want them in my circle of friends or in my social circle. I want to hang around with open-minded, alternative lifestyle people, or people that are open to it. And I don't necessarily put it in all of my friends' faces, but if they're going to come over to my house, and the basic rule is don't ask if you don't want to know what that's for. And I basically live that way. But to live like that, you still have to be comfortable enough that you have to understand some people, for be it a religious belief, be it just their own insecurities, or quite often because they want this and are denying themselves. So you that have it are the evil witch. They'll judge you, and you have to realize that people will judge you, and you have to be strong enough to stand up against them and just say, the hell with you. If you don't like me the way I am, hey, this is it. We never try and force it on anybody, but we do force them to either accept us or not be around us. And that's the way it is.
Let's change the direction just a little bit. We've talked about the sacrifices, the obstacles, the prejudice you face. I want to know about the pleasures of this lifestyle. What are some of the pleasures you experience?
How long is your show?
Well, summarize it for me. Summarize it.
The pleasures. Well, let me tell you. I get to live out my fantasies. I get to, because I'm a switch, I get to see both sides of it. I find that I get a concentration of that it's a bigger part of my life, the erotica, than it is for many people. I know I speak to many of my friends, and sex is just this little tiny thing that they do once a week. It's not a big part of their life, and it's a big part of mine, and I'm I like it. I'm glad. I can, because of role playing, we do all sorts of fantasies, and I love it.
You're talking about the pleasure out of it. I'm going to answer you that way. Anything you can dream, anything you can fantasize about, just do the research and do it. And that's the whole point. You fantasize about something in particular, why not just do it? This is the thing, is you're always discovering new things. I had fantasy about some specifics. I tried them. discovered that I didn't like it. I try other stuff, discovered that I really, really love it. And from there, you're always evolving. It's an adventure. We're always trying something new. Sometimes it could be something about domination. Sometimes it could be something about S&M. Or it could be something about just something we call sensation play. It could be just to have a new feeling, a new way of doing something, and it's great.
Are there any fantasies that you have yet to live out?
Well, for sure.
Yes, that's the whole point. You try one
I
thing,
keep getting new fantasies.
and you get like 20 more ideas.
Oh, absolutely. It's a never-ending possibility, and I find that as we play with and we'll add new submissives periodically to our stable, they'll bring in a new energy as well, and sometimes some really new and interesting kinks. And as Pierre was saying, I'm finding that unless it's something that I find particularly repulsive, heck, I'll try it. And I have been pleasantly surprised at times that there's some plays that I really enjoy, and yet there's others that I thought I was going to absolutely love that weren't as fun as I thought they were going to be. And a lot of the times where I get my pleasure is by knowing that I've just made somebody's fantasy come true, and that this type of play is something that they've been dreaming about their whole life.
This is
and
something
I
important.
just did it.
Because we kind of feed of the people's reaction. So if you do something that they have been fantasized, you have all that body language coming at you. You have all the reaction, and sometimes it's
amazing.
It's amazing. It's like eating that very, very, very good meal, but it's somebody who's giving it to you. It's and you didn't expect this.
Let's talk about your stable. You refer to your stable, the BDSM Circle. You have a website. How many people are a part of your circle? How do people audition or try to get into your circle? When and why do people leave?
Well, okay. Basically, our stable is Pierre and I together have submissives. The number of that are kind of active will vary. It's usually 4 or 5 at a time. Okay, but
is that 4 or 5 for each of you, or 4 or 5?
4 or 5 together.
Together, it's a lot of work already.
That's actually quite a few. However, we still have some long-term submissives that we've already had for 3-4 years that we may see them every week for 6 months, and then we won't see them for a couple of months, and then we see them every 2 weeks for 6 months, and it depends depending on what's happening in their life. Are they busy with school? That's university, or are they work, or family, somebody looking after a sick father, or gets transferred somewhere for 6 months, or things like this.
So, and submissive wise, it's really, really hard to answer because we're always having people coming in and out like this, and sometimes like we have old submissive that are coming back after many months. As for the circle of friends, actually the BDSM circle is we use the site as a tool to meet new people, not submissive, but to make new friends.
And new connections.
And new connection.
It's amazing what we learn from other lifestyle people. Sometimes people brand new to the lifestyle will have amazing ideas that they've come up with a really neato new way to do something because they didn't know any other way to do it. We meet a lot of people. As for adding submissives, well, I don't know about Pierre often leaves the show, we'll just say scouting up to me, and I'm almost always on the lookout, I have to admit.
Okay, here's the truth. She has a waiting list for male submissive.
Well, yeah, but
is that something really popular?
Oh, what? Really? I can't believe you're asking that, Frank. There are probably 50 male submissives for every
dominant woman.
For every dominant woman. So, yes, I'm pretty lucky.
We're going to have to wrap this up really quickly. Just give us your website address and a couple of things about your site.
It's a BDSM resource. It's a huge site with well over 500 pages. It's a resource site. It's got everything from amazing erotic stories to DS lifestyle advice, and it's written all by real people, and it's all non-profit. We don't make any money off it, and it's bdsmcircle.com, and it's fully bilingual French and English. Please stop by and drop us a line. Thanks.
And for the French side, because it is fully bilingual, it's www.cerclebdsm.com or .com. So,
Pierre and Catherine, it's been absolutely wonderful having you on the show. We have a parting gift here for you. It is a bottle of grenadine syrup, and we certainly hope that you'll enjoy this.
I'm sure I can find somebody to pour it over, Frank. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful visual. And please be sure to be thinking about me and this show when you're doing that, I think.
hi, this is Pierre,
And Catherine,
and you're listening to
Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, do you want the man in your life to understand you on your level? Do you want your man to be able to listen to and address all of your emotional needs? Show him how much you really want your relationship to be the best it can be. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test makes the perfect gift. The book, written by a man, for men, is endorsed by every woman that reads it. This book is a guide for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
What do you do when you feel like a fool? When your heart has been broken again? Pick up the phone or get onto Skype and talk on a private session. Yeah, get a little help from Frank Talks. Whoa, whoa, get by with a little help from Frank Talks. You gotta try a little help from Frank Talks. What do you do when your love goes away? Try coaching one-on-one. How do I sign up to turn things around? Just sign up at franktalks.com. Yeah, get by with help from Frank Talks. I get by with little help from Frank Talks. Time to try a little help from Frank Talks. Does it cost a lot of money? It's the best rate going around. Could it cost we're certain, just read the reviews. Frank knows his stuff, and Frank's several goods. Good love can soon come.